Welcome to episode 1 of this year's run of Wiki. What? We have our 3 contestants. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Michael Capshandy.
I'm Matt Sauter.
I'm Mike Smith.
And they, as per our normal rules, they basically will just determine which of these statements. We grabbed statements from Wikipedia. 2 of them are actually from Wikipedia and are real things that are true. And one of them is something that we just totally made up. You are trying to identify which one we made up. So our first set of facts, or pseudo-facts as it is, come from the world of freak accidents. Our first statement. In 1954, a construction foreman by the name of Matthias Fulcrum was checking in on his workers while recovering from a broken and dislocated pelvis. While he was only at the work site for a short time, one of the workers failed to see him while the worker was driving a forklift loaded with lumber and collided right into him. Fulcrum was hit at about 25 miles per hour and actually broke his arm in the process. However, the most extraordinary thing is that the collision actually seemed to relocate his pelvis, and his recovery was actually sped up due to the accident. For the pelvis, that is. He still had a full 8 weeks of recovery time for his newly broken arm. Fact number 2. In 1978, Russian particle physicist Anatoly Bergorsky was working with a particle accelerator when a safety mechanism failed. In investigating what went wrong, he accidentally stuck his head directly in the particle beam, after which he reportedly saw a flash, quote, brighter than 1,000 suns. He hid the accident initially in order to continue his work, but within a few days started facing significant health problems, including a complete loss of hearing in his left ear, swelling of his face, and burns from the proton beam through his face, into his skull, and even on his brain. Despite these injuries, Bergorsky is still alive now at the age of 80. Or, fact number 3. Phineas Gage is perhaps the most famous railroad construction worker ever. In 1848, Gage was engaged in a process of blasting through bedrock in order to prepare the ground for a railroad track when he became distracted and accidentally put his head directly in the path, where an iron rod was then blasted up out of the ground through his skull and through the frontal lobe of his brain. He survived this accident and even lived another 12 years, but the damage to his frontal lobe is credited as the reason that Gage literally had a change of personality and behavior. Which of those did we make up? Fact 1, 2, or 3? We'll give them just a second. Do we all have an answer?
Yes.
Let's see what we got. Reveal your answers.
I know 3 is
We did 2, 1, and 2, and it is number 1. That with the point. Matthias Fulcrum, that one is made up, but Bergorsky and Phineas Gage are both actual real people, and those things actually really happened.
I know
You went 1.
I know the rod story and just knocking the pelvis back into place. That was possible, but not.
Next we have odd animal facts. Statement number 1. In 1948 in Florida, a creature described as being a 15-foot tall penguin with alligator-like feet was supposedly spotted in multiple different instances. There are enough sightings of this creature that researchers actually investigated the situation, and one researcher hypothesized the creature was real and had been displaced from its home somehow. However, 40 years later, a St. Petersburg Times reporter investigated the situation again and concluded that it was all a hoax perpetrated by 2 well-known pranksters in Florida, one of whom had actually died many years earlier in 1961. Statement number 2. During the early 2000s, many farm owners in the Midwestern United States believed that field mice were spies for Big Ag. People thought companies such as Cargill and ADM would survey their fields and replace the real field mice with robots. Farmers felt that Big Ag was tracking them to make sure they were doing what they were supposed to be doing according to their contractual agreements. Operation Quiet as a Mouse began in large agricultural states like Iowa, Ohio, Idaho, Indiana, and Illinois, among other states in the Midwest. Local farmers speculate that this operation ended in the 2010s. This is, of course, just a conspiracy theory. And our third one, chicken eyeglasses, also known as chicken specs, were small eyeglasses made for chickens intended to prevent feather pecking and cannibalism. They differ from blinders as they allowed the bird to see forward, whereas blinders don't. One variety used rose-colored lenses, as the coloring was thought to prevent a chicken wearing them from recognizing blood on other chickens, which may increase the tendency for violent behavior. Do we all have our answers? 1, 2, or 3? Flip them over. And we have 2, 2, and 3, and number 2 is the one that is made up. Operation Quiet as a Mouse is, of course, not a real thing, but our giant 15-foot penguin, which, of course, wasn't real, and apparently chicken eyeglasses apparently are real.
You said Florida pranksters thought the Duke squad for a second. They said he died in 1991.
1961.
61. Oh my goodness, proportionally. I was even born, I bet.
Round 3 comes from Blockbuster Fails.
Dun dun dun.
Our first fact, in December of 2020, not so long ago, A Recipe for Seduction was released. This mini-film, sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken, starred Mario Lopez as Colonel Sanders and tells the story of a young heiress who struggles to choose between a wealthy suitor and the new house chef, Harlan Sanders. Our second possible fact, Zizek's Road is a 2006 American thriller film written, produced, and directed by John Penny, and starring Katherine Heigl, Leo Grillo, and Tom Sizemore, so some pretty big name actors there. The film gained notoriety for its gross ticket sales of $30 in its opening run, because it was intentionally a limited release in a single cinema, making it the lowest grossing film in U.S. history in terms of box office sales.
How much did the film? I don't even know all the actors.
I don't know, obviously it had to be more than $30.
I think they used more.
Katherine Heigl and Tom Sizemore are both like actual names that I recognize. So.
I think they used more gas to get to the shooting spot than they made on that.
Probably so.
Ticket.
Our third one, everyone knows about the blockbuster adaptations of Stephen King's It. There's a lesser-known film about clowns produced and released in 2013 called Why So Down, Mr. Clown? It was a documentary about sad clowns. The film had only had a limited release and only grossed about $150,000, but it's developed a cult following among people on the internet, especially on message boards like Reddit. In fact, there is still one shot from the film that is commonly used as a meme. Which one of those did we make up? We have Recipe for Seduction with KFC. We have Zizek's Road, grossing $30, and we have Why So Down, Mr. Clown. Those are our 3.
I've got a long shot. But
We all have our answers. Do you have an answer?
I will guess.
All right, flip them over. Let's see what we got. 3, 2, 2. It is number 3. I believe that puts us 2, 2, 0. Is that right?
I'm awesome.
Yeah, I think that's true.
All right, so we have 2 more rounds. Micah, you can still come back and you can still tie this and send it to overtime.
Sudden death.
Next one is about cavalry.
Dun dun.
That's right. In the 1700s, the Florentine army in provincial Italy experimented with the use of donkeys for their cavalry in a local skirmish with the Sicilian army. The Florentines were completely routed in the battle due to the donkeys' lack of speed and cooperation, and the Sicilians went on to take the city of Florence 8 months later. Our second possible fact, in the 1600s, the Swedish army regularly used moose to draw sleighs of royal couriers, and some people believe they once attempted to replace horses with moose for their cavalry, which would have greatly cut the costs necessary of importing horses. Many historians believe this, however, to be a myth. And our third one, the first recorded use of the camel as a military animal was by the Arab king Gindibu. I probably butchered that one, so I apologize. Which is claimed to have employed as many as 1,000 camels at the Battle of Karkar, probably got that one wrong too, in 853 BC. A later instance occurred in the Battle of Thimbra in 547 BC. Some say that the camel cavalry outnumbered other cavalry by as much as 6 to 1. So, which one did we make up? Donkey cavalry, moose cavalry, or camel cavalry?
I think it's moose.
And you all went, actually no, we have moose, camel, and moose, and it's actually donkey cavalry. Nobody gets a point.
They said that the donkeys were slow. I'm like, yeah, that's not that bad of an idea.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, how many camels do exist? That was my guess. I didn't know.
What's the plural of moose? There's mooses, but why isn't it meese? Like goose, geese, moose, geese.
I feel like we're straying into a Brian Regan thing. Ever heard of him? He's a very funny comedian.
Sounds familiar.
Go watch Brian Regan. WikiWhat, sponsored by Brian Regan. Our last one has to do with, wow, we have not so modern technology, huh? You didn't decide to go with Edison? Edison is our is our theme for the last one. These all connect to Thomas Edison. Anyway, Monkey Shines is a series of experimental short silent films made for Edison Labs that are only a few seconds long, made to test the original cylinder format of a device called a kinetoscope, an early device that was the forerunner to other film technology. These films were intended to be for internal uses and were not created for commercial use, though. Our second one, Edison and Tesla had a bitter feud over their technology. In fact, the real end of Tesla's career came when he was doing a public test of some of his technology to show its superiority over Edison's, and the test subject was electrocuted and killed on the spot in front of an audience of expo visitors. For our third one, Edison was credited with designing and producing the first commercially available fluoroscope, a machine that uses x-rays to help doctors see an x-ray video of the inside of a person. Despite the fact that Edison's work was significant in the advancement of such devices, Edison himself gave up on this work when an accident involving the machine nearly blinded Edison and subjected one of his assistants to such a high level of radiation that the man died only a few years later due to a related cancer diagnosis. Which of those did we make up? Flip them over if you got them. Everyone went with 2, so we definitely have a tiebreaker, and that is the correct answer.
Good.
That is right. All right, are you ready?
I was born ready.
Okay, so now for our tiebreaker, we're gonna go back to our wonderful film, a film that I feel like I have to see now, A Recipe for Seduction, our KFC sponsored film. Your tiebreaker is whoever is closest, a number between obviously 0 and 100. What is the Rotten Tomatoes aggregate score on positive ratings for A Recipe for Seduction? The closest wins. There's
Is
no
it closest without going over?
Nope, it is just closest. There is no Price is Right rules here. You obviously show them both at the same time, so nobody can, $1 the other person, or.
All right.
All right, let's see what we got. 54% and 40%, and it actually has a stunningly high 70%. So, Matt Sonner, you are our winner of this year's first episode of Wiki What. It was well fought, Michael. You did well. Who would have possibly thought
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I didn't
A
think
Recipe for Seduction would actually be certified fresh?
I watch it. I need to watch it too. Is it on YouTube?
I have no idea, but
Put it in, show it now.
no, that would definitely be copyright infringement. We would get in trouble. Thanks for watching this episode of Wiki What? Please join us for our next episode.